You remember the moment, even if the details have blurred. The first time alcohol actually worked. Not the taste, that came later, but the feeling. The way your shoulders dropped without you telling them to, the way the noise in your head went quiet, the way you suddenly felt like you could breathe, talk, exist without the weight you'd been carrying so long you forgot it was there. It wasn't about getting drunk, not that first time. It was about discovery. You found a switch you didn't know existed, a way to turn down the volume on everything that was too loud inside you. Anxiety softened. Self-consciousness faded. The awkwardness that followed you everywhere stepped aside, and for a moment, you felt like the person you always wanted to be. Lighter, freer, more yourself, or at least a version of yourself that didn't hurt to inhabit. Most people who develop a complicated relationship with alcohol aren't looking for destruction. They're looking for relief. The first drink that works arrives at a moment when something else isn't working. Stress that won't release, thoughts that won't stop, a feeling of being trapped inside your own skin. The alcohol doesn't fix the problem, but it dissolves the edges. And when you've been living with sharp edges long enough, dissolution feels like salvation. That first relief wasn't random. It was your nervous system meeting a chemical that did what nothing else could. And once you felt it, you couldn't unfeel it. The door opened, and somewhere in your brain, a note was made. This works. Remember this. Come back here. People who don't struggle with drinking don't understand. They see the hangovers, the lost evenings, the money spent, and wonder why anyone would keep choosing this. But they're missing what alcohol actually provides. Not poison, not weakness. Something far more valuable, a key. A key to a room inside yourself that you can't seem to access any other way. For some, that room is relaxation. The body that never unclenches, the mind that never stops planning and worrying. Alcohol is the only thing that tells it to stop. Not sleep, not meditation, not exercise. Those help others. But for you, the drink is the only reliable off switch. 1 glass and the shoulders drop. 2 glasses and the jaw unclenches. The peace isn't earned, it's poured. For others, that room is courage. The words you can never say become speakable. The feelings you keep locked away finally surface. The person you wish you could be, confident, funny, unbothered, shows up when the alcohol arrives. Sober, you're trapped behind glass. Drunk, the glass disappears. It's not that alcohol makes you someone else. It feels like it finally lets you be who you really are. And for some, that room is silence. The thoughts that attack you constantly, the self-criticism that never rests, the memories that keep resurfacing. Alcohol drowns them. Not forever, but for an evening, there's quiet. The drink doesn't solve your problems. It gives you a vacation from knowing you have them. And when your own mind is the thing you need a vacation from, that's worth more than non-drinkers can imagine. There's a system inside you that's supposed to shift between alert and rest. Danger comes, you respond. Danger passes, you relax. This is how the body is designed to work. Activation, then recovery. But for some people, the system gets stuck. The alert phase never fully ends. The body stays braced. The mind stays vigilant. And rest becomes something other people do. You live in a low-grade emergency that never resolves. This state has a name: chronic hyperarousal. It doesn't always feel dramatic. Sometimes it's just a constant hum of tension, a background static that you've carried so long you forgot it's not normal. You can't fall asleep easily. You can't sit still without feeling like you should be doing something. You can't relax because your nervous system doesn't believe relaxation is safe. It's waiting for the next threat, even when no threat is coming. Alcohol interrupts this pattern. It's a central nervous system depressant. It literally slows down the firing. For someone whose system runs hot, this isn't intoxication. It's regulation. The first drink doesn't make you drunk. It makes you normal. It brings you down to where other people start. The relief isn't about pleasure. It's about finally, for a moment, not being at war with your own body. The problem is that the system adapts. What worked with one drink now needs two. The baseline shifts. Without alcohol, the arousal is worse than before. You're not drinking to feel good anymore. You're drinking to feel anything close to okay. The solution became the problem. But the original problem, the nervous system that never learned to rest, that was there long before the first drink. The alcohol just found it. Pain is a signal. It tells you something is wrong, something needs attention, something must change. For millions of years, this signal kept organisms alive. Touch fire, feel pain, pull back. Simple. Effective. But evolution didn't anticipate a world where the pain never stops, where the signal keeps firing with no fire to pull back from. Modern pain is often invisible. It's not a wound you can bandage, not a predator you can flee. It's anxiety that hums constantly, memories that keep surfacing, a sense of wrongness you can't locate or fix. The pain is real, but there's no action that resolves it. The signal keeps firing, and there's nowhere to run. The brain, designed for short emergencies, finds itself in an endless one. This is where numbing becomes logical. If you can't escape the pain, you can at least stop feeling it. The brain didn't evolve with whiskey, but it evolved to seek relief. Anything that dulls the signal becomes attractive. Alcohol doesn't solve the problem. It interrupts the transmission. The pain still exists. You just stop receiving the message for a while. You're not weak for wanting the signal to stop. You're human. The same brain that kept your ancestors alive by avoiding pain is now trying to avoid a kind of pain it wasn't designed for. The alcohol makes sense to this ancient system. It's a clumsy solution, a dangerous one. But the logic underneath is pure survival. The brain is doing what brains do, running from pain by any means available. It just doesn't know that this particular exit leads somewhere worse. No one is born needing to escape themselves. That's learned. Somewhere in childhood, some children discover that being present hurts. The home is chaotic. The parent is unpredictable. The emotions are too big, and no one helps regulate them. Being fully here, in this moment, in this body, becomes something to survive rather than inhabit. The child learns to leave without leaving, to check out, to numb, to find any door out of the present. Some childhoods teach that feelings are dangerous. Anger was punished, sadness was mocked, fear was dismissed. The child learns to suppress, to push down, to seal away what can't be safely expressed. But feelings don't disappear when you bury them. They stay, pressing against the walls, requiring constant energy to contain. By adulthood, the pressure is immense, and alcohol becomes the release valve, the only thing that lets the sealed feelings out without having to consciously face them. Other childhoods are simply too much. Not abusive, maybe, but overwhelming. Sensitive children in loud families, emotional children in dismissive environments, children who felt everything in homes where feelings were never discussed. They grew up flooded, without tools to process, without anyone to help them make sense of the intensity. Alcohol arrives later and does what no one ever did. It turns down the volume. The drinking isn't about the drink. It's about what the drink allows. Escape from a self that learned early that presence was painful. The child who couldn't leave the home found a way to leave their body instead. The adult who pours the glass is still that child, still looking for the exit that was never provided. The need isn't weakness. It's the echo of a survival strategy that started long before the first sip. There's a strange paradox in people who drink to numb. Sometimes they're also drinking to feel. The same substance that quiets pain can unlock what's been caged. The tears that never come arrive after the second glass. The words you've swallowed for months spill out at midnight. The anger you're not allowed to have suddenly has a voice. Alcohol doesn't just suppress. It permits. For people who learned that emotions are unacceptable, this permission is priceless. Sober, they're controlled, managed, holding everything in place with exhausting precision. They can't cry because crying is weak. They can't rage because rage is dangerous. They can't say what they really feel because feelings weren't safe in the family they grew up in. But drunk? Drunk is an excuse. It's not me, it's the alcohol. The drink becomes a cover story for being human. This is why some people only access their truth when drinking. The real conversation happens at 1 a.m. with wine. The confession comes after whiskey. The "I love you," or "I'm hurting," or "I can't do this anymore." It needs alcohol to escape the throat. Sober, the walls are too high. The substance lowers them just enough for something real to slip through. The tragedy is double. First, that someone needed chemical permission to feel their own feelings. Second, that the feelings expressed drunk are often dismissed by others and later by themselves. The truth that finally emerged gets buried again by morning, blamed on the bottle, discounted as not real. So the feelings stay trapped, only released in moments that don't count, spoken in a language that gets forgotten. The need to feel remains. And the only door to it stays locked behind a drink. You work, you push, you carry what needs carrying and show up when showing up is required. And when the day finally ends, when the tasks are done, when there's nothing left that demands your immediate attention, you don't know how to stop. The body is still. The mind keeps running. The transition from doing to being never quite completes. Until you pour the drink. For many people, alcohol is the only reliable bridge from work mode to rest. It's not about getting drunk. It's about landing. The first sip is a signal to the nervous system. You can stop now. Without it, the engine keeps revving. With it, something finally clicks off. The drink doesn't give you rest. It gives you access to rest. It's the key to a door that seems locked every other way. This pattern often starts innocently. A glass of wine to unwind. A beer after a hard day. It works so well that it becomes the only thing that works. The brain stops learning other ways to transition. Why would it? This one is fast, effective, predictable. Other options, walks, baths, breathing exercises, feel flimsy in comparison. They require effort. The drink requires only pouring. Over time, the bridge becomes mandatory. You can't relax without it. The evening without alcohol isn't peaceful. It's restless, incomplete, like a sentence without a period. You're not addicted to being drunk. You're dependent on the only off switch you ever learned to use. And the deeper the dependency grows, the harder it becomes to imagine that rest could ever exist without it. There's a version of you that only shows up after a few drinks. Funnier, looser, more confident. The one who talks to strangers, tells stories, laughs without measuring whether the laugh is appropriate. Sober, this version hides. It watches from behind a wall of self-consciousness, calculating every word, monitoring every impression. But drunk, it steps forward. And sometimes this version feels more real than the sober one. Social anxiety is more common than people admit. The fear of being judged, of saying the wrong thing, of being too much or not enough. It hums in the background of every interaction. Alcohol silences this hum. It doesn't make you a different person. It removes the guard that stands between you and your own spontaneity. The charm was always there. The ease was always there. They were just locked behind fear. The drink is the key. This is why some people only socialize when drinking. Parties require alcohol. Dates require alcohol. Even time with friends feels incomplete without a glass in hand. It's not that they can't be present without it. It's that the self they want to be, the relaxed, connected, likable self, only has permission to exist in the presence of the substance. Sober, they feel like an imposter. Drunk, they feel like themselves. The trap is that this social self never learns to exist without the chemical assist. Every successful connection reinforces the belief you need alcohol to be likable. Every good night out confirms sober you isn't enough. The drink becomes a requirement for belonging. And slowly, quietly, you stop knowing who you are without it. or whether that person could ever be loved. People think quitting drinking is about giving something up. They don't understand that for some, it feels like being locked out of relaxation, locked out of confidence, locked out of the only version of yourself that feels bearable to be. The drink wasn't just a habit, it was a doorway. And without it, the doors don't open anymore. This is the part that's hard to explain to people who drink casually. For them, alcohol is a nice addition, a flavor, a social lubricant, something to enjoy. For you, it's access. Access to peace, access to connection, access to parts of yourself that don't seem to exist without it. When you stop drinking, you don't just lose the alcohol, you lose everything the alcohol unlocked. And no one tells you how to get those things back. The early days of not drinking can feel like amnesia. You don't know how to relax. You don't know how to be funny. You don't know how to survive a party or a hard conversation or a Friday night. The tools you built your adult life with are gone, and nothing has replaced them. You're not just sober, you're stranded, standing in front of doors that used to open holding nothing. This is why so many people go back. Not because they're weak, because they're locked out of themselves and no one gave them another key. The return to drinking isn't about wanting alcohol. It's about wanting access, to rest, to feeling, to the self that only seemed to exist with a glass in hand. Quitting isn't subtraction, it's exile. And until you find new doors, the old one will keep calling you back. Beneath the relaxation, beneath the confidence, beneath all the things alcohol gives, there's something deeper it was answering. Something most people don't talk about because it's harder to admit than a drinking problem. Loneliness. Not always the loneliness of being alone. Sometimes the loneliness of being surrounded by people and still feeling unreached. Alcohol creates a kind of instant intimacy. Strangers become friends. Conversations go deeper, faster. The walls that keep people at a safe distance dissolve, and suddenly you're connected. Really connected, or so it feels. For someone who walks through life feeling slightly separate, slightly outside, this is everything. The drink doesn't just change you. It changes the space between you and others. It closes gaps that feel unclosable when sober. Some people drink alone, and the loneliness is different, but no less real. The glass becomes the companion, the ritual of pouring, the warmth spreading through the chest, its presence when no one else is present. It's something to do with the evening that would otherwise stretch empty and endless. The drink doesn't judge, doesn't leave, doesn't require you to perform. It just sits with you in the quiet, asking nothing. This is the loneliness alcohol was answering, the ache of disconnection that modern life creates and rarely acknowledges. We're more connected than ever and lonelier than ever. The drink steps into this gap. It offers belonging, presence, closeness, even when it's just you and the bottle. The solution is temporary and false, but the loneliness it's answering is permanent and real. And until that loneliness finds another answer, the drink will keep being invited back. Underneath, every drink is a need. Not for alcohol, that came later. The original need was there first, waiting for an answer. Maybe it was calm in a body that couldn't settle. Maybe it was courage in a self that felt small. Maybe it was connection in a life that felt isolating. Maybe it was simply permission to rest, to feel, to be someone other than who you're forced to be all day. The alcohol didn't create these needs. It just became the only thing that answered them. Look closely at when you drink. Not just the habit, but the emotional context. After work, the need is transition. Before socializing, the need is confidence. Alone at night, the need is companionship or escape. When overwhelmed, the need is silence. Each drink is pointing at something real, something legitimate, something that deserves to be met. The alcohol was just the messenger, delivering what you couldn't get any other way. This is what most recovery programs miss. They focus on the alcohol as the enemy. But the alcohol was always a solution. an imperfect, damaging solution to a legitimate problem. Remove the solution without understanding the problem, and the problem screams louder. It finds another answer, maybe worse, or it simply makes life unbearable until you return to the one thing that worked. Real freedom from alcohol doesn't come from willpower alone. It comes from finally understanding what you were actually thirsty for. What need was the drink trying to meet? What did it give you that nothing else did? Answer these questions honestly, and you'll find the map to something better. Not a replacement addiction. A real answer. The thing you needed all along, delivered in a form that doesn't cost you your life. The drink was never the point. It was the delivery system, carrying something to you that you couldn't access any other way. Calm, courage, connection, permission, relief. These are the real destinations. The alcohol was just how you got there. And now, if you want freedom, you have to find new roads to the same places. Start with the calm. Your nervous system needs to learn that it can settle without chemical intervention. And this isn't quick. It isn't easy. It requires teaching your body what no one ever taught it, that safety exists, that rest is allowed, that you can come down without pouring something to bring you down. Breathwork, movement, practices that feel small but slowly rewire what alcohol trained. The calm is possible without the bottle, but your body doesn't believe it yet. You have to show it, again and again. Find the courage another way. The confidence alcohol unlocked was always yours. It was just trapped behind fear. The fear doesn't disappear without alcohol. It gets louder at first, but it can be faced. Small risks while sober, small moments of being seen without the shield. Each one teaches you that you can survive exposure, that the social self doesn't need a drink to exist, that you're more capable of connection than you ever believed. Build the connection for real. The intimacy alcohol provided was fast but shallow. Real closeness is slower. It requires showing up consistently, being seen imperfectly, letting people know you without the lubrication of substances. It's harder. It's also the only kind that lasts. The loneliness the drink was answering doesn't disappear when you quit. It demands a real answer now. And the real answer is people, real ones, who see you sober and stay. If this put words to something you've carried silently, you're not alone. Drinking was never about weakness or lack of willpower. It was about meeting needs with the only tool you had. Now there's a chance for different tools. Not because alcohol is evil, but because you deserve to be fully present in your own life and to remember it the next morning.